Sam,
Yeah, mate.
what is Fragadelphia all about?
Well, I thought it was about North American teams playing for a chance of glory within their home nation and also getting a little bit drunk on the side.
See, I thought it was that, except it was really, really drunk. But apparently, no. It's apparently about the most famous American state, the United Kingdom, coming over and qualifying to a major. And in that way, as you can probably see on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, if you're not, well, you should be. Fnatic won Fragadelphia.
Come on!
Which does mean that which does mean that Blame F, Cypher, Jambo, and Fia will all be going to the major. I believe Jacasmo will be back in like no man's land before the major, and
probably
there's somebody else. I can't remember who it is coming
it should
in.
Be Cribbs.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, fine. Well, Jacasmo just left such a lasting impression on me that I forgot who Crims even was. They came out on top after a 3-2 win on 9, which means 7 o'clock in the morning, I think this game finished in Europe. So all of Fnatic's fans would not have watched this, which kind of gets us on to the first point. I'm just going to go straight into it under 2 minutes in. Like, the most important game of Fnatic's season, the last spot for the major, probably shouldn't be played at 9 in the morning, casted by a guy called Buckethead. No offence, he was actually, as we just said off air, the casting was actually very good, but also it should be being casted by Harry and Hugo. It's not their fault, and like people should be able to watch the last game for the major.
Okay, I think. Right, I've thought a lot about this actually, because we'll get to the take of the week in a minute. But I found myself, for a moment at least, agreeing with the take of the week. But then
that's for a specific reason. There's nothing to do with anything else. He said past the first line.
But then the take of the week it goes on. We won't go through that even when we get to it. And there's other alternatives. Whatever. The thing is, the reason I found myself agreeing is because, ignoring the fact that it was in North America, what happened at Frag was the perfect storm that made this new system seem incredible. Because Saw got knocked out in the quarterfinals, so 9, Ecstatic, OG and Fnatic, the final 4 at Frag, whichever one of them went on and won the event, was going to take the last spot at the major. Now, this was also because VP got kicked out of Sweden.
Yeah.
And so, like, the devil's advocate in me wants to say, oh yeah, but imagine, okay, this was a LAN event in anywhere in Europe, right, where we can all watch it and we're staying up to watch the end of this best of 5 final that means so much. And it does sound kind of good. It does sound good.
Yeah.
But the problem is that I don't think if we keep this system for another 4 majors, we will ever see anything like it again.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many things had to happen. I think at the start of the weekend, even when VP were confirmed to be missing out, Fnatic still had like a 10% chance.
At one point they had a 2.9%.
I know they did it at one point, but I feel like it also was higher at a point after that. I don't know.
Well, it's 100% now, so they definitely did get higher.
So many things had to happen for this, where realistically, we can all talk about how amazing it is right now, but the next time the major comes around, the 16 teams are probably just going to be confirmed like a week before.
Yeah.
And that magic will be
completely
gone.
Anticlimactic. Yeah. But like, even in the absolute best case scenario, the magic was at Fragadelphia, which is just a weird letdown in terms of the atmosphere-wise. It's just wrong. As you've mentioned several times on this podcast, and at the time I never really sort of internalized it, this has ruined Fragadelphia. Like, this is absolutely ruined Fragadelphia. This is not what Fragadelphia is. Like, Fragadelphia shouldn't be about Fnatic, 9, OG, and Ecstatic playing for millions of pounds.
Like, Charlie, go on the bracket for this one. Like, scroll down. Right, I want you to look at the teams here. There is one NA team in the quarterfinals. It's wild card. There are 2 teams from the Americas in Sharks. Of the other teams, I guess that Bounty Hunters at the bottom might be NA. But Marsborn, NA, knocked out in the round of 16. Skinrave.
Bounty Hunters are Brazilian.
Okay. Skinrave, NA, knocked out in the round of 16. I can't see who Big beat there, just because of the resolution of what we're looking at. Venom. EU team.
Polish.
Great. And then... Yeah, so just look at this. Like, look at the complete and utter lack of NA teams, right? And I couldn't find the tweet because I couldn't remember who tweeted it. But there's already a thing in NA where if Charlie, you go onto the rankings real quick, like the VRS rankings for Americas, there's already a thing in NA where they're talking about the fact that South American teams just have more VRS events. And this is why when you look at this, of the teams that have qualified for the major, there are 3 NA teams. And then in the big fucking land that they have, it's overrun by South Americans, which is, I guess, fine because they're in the same VRS region.
Yeah.
Like, I can allow that. I prefer it wasn't the case, but okay. And then it's just European teams. Like, they don't have enough lands back home. Like, and that as well. It's like, there isn't enough for the NA scene already, and then they get fucked out of their own event because people realise that, like, you have to be a paedophile when it comes to VRS. And, like, fucking prey on the little ones. But
yeah, I keep... Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I will never, ever accept the idea that this hasn't ruined Frag, because I watched a large part of the final. And I know it went on late.
Which already means it's ruined, by the way. If me and you are watching any part of Fragadelphia, it's already ruined.
But, like, I can't imagine that the crowd... Like, the crowd was making a lot of noises, but it was mainly just the annoying loud noises that esports crowds make. Like in Train, which I was passing in and out of consciousness during, most of the time that I woke up, it was because a guy was making train noises. There wasn't actually...
Which is funny.
Yeah,
that is funny.
That was kind of funny. But there wasn't much celebration for what was actually happening, and there was some big plays. And I just can't imagine that would be the same if it was like NRG versus M80 in a full best of 5.
Yeah, it would be so much better. I will say, a complete devil's advocate, I did see a guy who used to play games, a guy called, I think he's called Fat Guy on Twitter. He, like, American guy, and he was like, this Fragadelphia's one was like amazing to witness for him, because I think he's probably used to watching, as we've got on screen, Lag versus G3 in the final, and instead he actually got to watch, like, you know, UK's finest.
Yeah, but, like, the 24 ones aren't the ones worth looking at, because it's like, the 25 VRS ones are.
Yeah.
And the problem is just, like, as they've been overran by European teams. That's the real issue. Like,
no, that's just like an old school. That's how it used to be, right?
So Fragville...
this is a bit
That's
better.
fine. That's fine. This is the first one. This is the one that Nip went to first, I think.
Yeah.
Or it's like the second one before the teams really realised, like, just how much they could get from the Frag events.
Yeah.
And that looks okay to me. I can't criticise
that. I don't really have an issue with, like, you know, Marsborn coming in 5th and 8th. That's about where they should be finishing. Like,
yeah.
You know, barring something going wrong, like, they should be finishing at that, because they're probably one of the top 10 teams in NA, especially when Liquid aren't there. And, like, this is an NA event. Obviously, one spot's taken by NIP. There's a couple taken by the Brazilians, whatever. Like, but it was a completely... And I've seen people say, like, oh, you know, it did what it's supposed to do. It's like, yeah, but I understand it's within the rules. I understand how we got here. That isn't... My problem with it isn't that it's legal or like... This is completely ruined the spirit of the event. And when it comes to VRS, I've seen, like... Obviously, Messioso's like the go-to guy when it comes to VRS fuckery. And he was like... and somebody wrote, I think it was Nell wrote an article about why VRS is bad. He was like, well, teams just don't understand it. I'm like, well, yeah. And he made it sound like that's on them. Like teams should understand it, and I agree they should. But also, why is it so difficult? Surely Messi also knows that there's like 3 people who understand it, and he's one of them, and that's just because it's his job to. Yes, there should be somebody whose job it is on each team to understand it. At least each team, like Na'Vi, don't need to care what the rules are because they're going to qualify anyway. But like for like the 20 teams who might qualify, they should probably know some of this. But then some of them don't have the budget to have a guy like Messioso on. So it's for him to go, oh, well, they should just understand VRS. Well, the IGL's got more important things to worry about than how the VRS system works or doesn't work. And I just find that really like, oh, you should just understand how it works. No, it shouldn't exist. Like, I shouldn't have to.
The thing is,
God, I hate it.
Right, Charlie, pull up the take of the week. Let's move to the take of the week to actually like get through this. Elliott, would you like to read this out, and then I'll actually give my thoughts.
Yeah, I might skip over parts of it because it's a long tweet. Also, by the way, to explain how actually Astralis fanned this point is, the issue people had with the importance of the RMR or MRQ events was specifically in relation to the best teams in the format. It's probably not good for Vitality to care more about the qualifier for the major than the major itself, because there is a genuine worry from the best teams that they could get upset in a BO1 and not qualify despite being a top 5 team. Using the current system, Vitality didn't need to worry about not getting upset in a single Swiss bracket, blah blah blah. For the weakest teams, qualifying for the major should be as or more important than whatever performance they give at the major itself. These are the exact fairy tale storylines you are proclaiming to be fighting for. Any reasonable methodology of determining participants at the major will always have teams fighting to the teeth to qualify at the end, and pretending that any RMR critic actually just wants all major participants to be decided by magical arbitrary invites is a pathetic straw man.
Okay, so I'm now going to fix the system, because I can. Right, so one of the points that you make, Elliott, in response to this, is that you want the people who are the best team at the event, as in the RMR, to be the ones at the major. I think that is kind of stupid, if I'm being honest, because the RMRs themselves were separate events to the majors, and sometimes, there was events in between the majors and the RMR. And if you look at certain RMRs, I'm pretty sure Sprout 3-0'd an RMR. Were they the best team there? No, of course they weren't. And this then goes down to the RMR format, where you have 2 best of ones. It's just
fix
ridiculous.
that. I have no problem with fixing that. Although that. I also think people completely overstate how random BO1s are. They are not that random.
They're not, but they're certainly more random in MR12, and they have no place in MR12.
Yes, but then I've also advocated for MR15,
anyway,
so,
Anyway, so first off, you've got to fix the format. That has to be, but that goes right the way into the major. My second point is that
agreed.
I do think the best team should be at the major. I know your thoughts, but I just think the answer to that, and this gets suggested later on, I believe by Carbon Dogma, is that it just shouldn't extend the whole way, right? It should be like the top 8 teams over the course of the season. I know you make a suggestion about if you win a Tier 1 LAN.
I think that's better. Because then if you win a Tier 1 LAN, you qualify to the major, everyone else has to qualify. Because if you're actually one of the best teams and you actually have to be at the event, you should have won an event this year.
But year or season is the issue.
I don't mind either. I think season, just because the earlier major you'd be including stuff from last year, and I think the team you were in March is not the team you are in December.
Well, if it was season, then the teams receiving invites this season would be it would be Mongols, Furia, G2,
Vitality?
Spirit. Vitality haven't won one.
Have they not?
So,
well, fuck them then.
And if it was year, then obviously Vitality, Falcons, Mouse get included as well.
Yeah, I feel like either of those options would be perfectly fine.
Yeah, so that's okay. I believe they probably would all come out in your top 8 teams of the year, probably anyway, right?
Yeah. So, and they'd also probably all qualify through an RMR as well.
But then, there's also the difference in regions or whatever. And that's a fine thing. I'm also okay with using VRS for that and just doing a general, is 2 from Americas, fucking 8 from EU. Like, get it to 16 teams or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But then we get to the VRS problem, where this time we had a really good final event for a spot, but that won't happen again, like we've said. So how do you fix that? How do you bring the magic back? Well, look at Austin. Austin had VRS invites to a certain spot, and then it had the RMRs, which were VRS invited, and there was no open qualifier, but there were still RMRs. Now, those RMRs still had best of ones, problem. They were online, problem.
Yeah, those both issues,
But if you can then, say you half the invite pool for each region, right? So instead of 16 for EU, you get 8. Instead of, 10 for Americas, you get 5, whatever. You do this. And then you make RMRs for each region with the next teams plus spots from open qualifiers. That way you're still getting the best teams at the major. Because yes, I get it. It was really funny when G2 missed the major. It was really funny every time Astralis missed the major. And maybe not so much Astralis with this point, but the major was worse without G2 there. Because G2 were one of the best teams in the world. They had Nico and Monosea.
But not at that moment in time they weren't. Because if they were, they'd have qualified.
Fine, they weren't for that RMR not long after they'd made changes.
So they probably were going to bomb out of the major anyway. What difference does it make?
They won the event.
If you can't qualify from
Elliott, they won the event.
If you can't qualify from RMR, I don't care. Yeah, I don't care. They lost 3 games.
They won the event after the major. Like, that doesn't.
Yeah, because they didn't lose games there. Like,
but that's nonsense.
You can't keep insulating. No. You can't just insulate big teams against bad results. Like, we already have seeding to insulate big teams against these results. We already have a way of stopping big teams from getting, quote unquote, screwed over by having to play big teams like Game Legion did at ESL Pro League.
I just want the best teams at the biggest event.
So do I. So fucking win 3 games then.
But I just think
it's literally as simple as that.
Just take that away. No. Just have them there.
If they won an event, sure, I don't mind that. If they'd won a tier 1 LAN, sure, I don't mind that. I think anything more than that is silly.
But I do think that's a ridiculous notion as well. If you do it year based, I guess it's kind of okay. But if you do it seasonal, it's ridiculous because then you're not inviting vitality. And if you try and tell me the team that's made the top 4 of every event they've attended this year isn't
it's not that I don't think they're one of the best teams. No, but it's not. Yeah, but it's not that I don't think they're one of the best teams in the world. I just think that doesn't. I don't understand why that has to mean you have to go. I don't understand why. So, the World Cup still has qualifiers.
It's better for the esport if they're there.
England still have to qualify for the World Cup.
The World Cup is different. People are going to watch it either way.
People are going to watch the major either way.
Yeah, but look at the viewership numbers when those teams aren't there. We don't we don't have the safety net football has. That's a big point.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not making competitive decisions on an economic standpoint. I think that's a horrible
I think
idea.
You kind of have to when you're esports to some degree. That is the unfortunate truth of it. It's like having Na'Vi be good is kind of the best thing that can happen for any esport.
Oh, I think K-Corp, fine.
Well, yeah, I mean,
no,
K-Corp's another one, but the Ukrainians are mental. Brazilian teams being good is really good for an esport. Anyway,
it is, but you have to get new Brazilian teams at some point. Bad News Eagles, when they qualified, it was you had a whole new part of Europe that was interested in Counter Strike. They had the fucking Prime Minister fly out to see them. You have to have new blood. You can't keep just recycling the same teams, which is what this is going to do.
I mean, this system would, the one I'm proposing wouldn't, because you'd still have, let's say, 8 teams invited to an RMR and another 8 teams that have to qualify to it through open qualifiers into closed qualifiers and all that bullshit, right? I think
isn't that very similar to what I've said? Just by different methodology.
I mean, yeah.
Teams who have won a tier 1 LAN this year, you said was 7 or 8 teams.
I'd just invite the top 8 from Europe, the top whatever from Asia, and the top whatever from Americas.
Actually, another question I have about this: if we just want the reason for the Valve rankings is we just want the best, whatever, 16, 32 teams at the major. Why are we bothering to split it up by region?
Well, that is a question, isn't it?
Like, what's the point in splitting it up by region then? Because if the whole point is we just want the best teams there, like, why are Red Canids there?
Well, yeah.
Are Red Canids better than 9 and OG?
That's something I completely agree with. I don't understand the regional...
If you're going to be elitist, do it properly.
I understand why the regional split has to happen. But I also, like... I do think the point you just said, like, sticks out as a pretty standard argument against pretty much anything, actually.
Yeah, it's like, if we're going to do this properly. But, like, I think when I was tweeting back and forth with Colin, like, I basically made the point then, because he was like, I was like, why does this team have to be here? And he was like, oh, and he basically was like, oh, well, upsets happen. I was like, so why don't we just pick the top 8 and just have them in the playoffs? And I found his, like, what he responded to very illuminating, which was, oh, because Valve said there's 32 teams. He didn't actually say, oh, I don't want. I mean,
that's true.
He just said, because, but like, we've both spoken to people from, like, you know, we've both spoken to people who've said, like, oh, well, if I could just pick the playoffs, it would be better. And it's like, no, it wouldn't. That's not...
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
You don't like Counter-Strike. You don't want to watch anything.
My take starts and ends at the best team should be there, but how far they get after that is whatever.
The best team should have to prove the best teams by beating everyone.
I honestly think one of my bigger problems, and I know how much me and you love the Swiss stage, but one of my bigger problems with the major right now in its current form is the repeated Swiss stages. I think those are ridiculous.
Nah, I'll never have a problem with more. If anything, add an extra Swiss. Make the playoff Swiss system.
I think, like, I think teams are also insulated by the fact that they start in stage 3 as opposed to stage 1.
Yeah,
that bothers me more than a lot of other things.
You know how I feel about this. I would not give any insulation to big teams. Or if it was up to me, there would be no seeding. Everyone would have to qualify. Like quite simply, if you are the best team, you should be able to beat anyone. You should be able to win most of your games and qualify through every stage. If you're the best team in the world, which is what the major, like, you should just be able to beat anyone. It doesn't matter. And if you go, well, I had to play against 3 big teams, so I'm out. Well, you weren't going to win anyway. I don't care.
Oh, that's a point.
You're going to beat a good team at some point.
Before we move on, that's a nonsense point I saw the other day. So, in Valorant Champions happened this weekend, and MIBR got knocked out quite early. And this Brazilian, I don't know what he is, whether he's talent or just like a personality or whatever. He fucking tweeted, we lost to NRG, Fnatic, and Paper Rex. Or DRX, I can't remember which one, who were the top 3 teams at the event. And he was like, so we are the moral champions.
Yeah.
How insane is that?
At best, you're 4th.
Yeah.
Absolute best, you're 4th.
Like,
and you're not 4th.
What does that mean? Also, just before we move on,
does that make Gamer Legion the moral champions of ESL Pro League?
I believe so, yes. Just before we move on, I'd just like to say one thing, because why not? I think Valorant Champions might be better than the majors. No, seriously, right? The fucking stage design they do for that event is wicked. Like, they don't do it the rest of the year. It makes it feel ridiculously big, and actually the next major will be a really good comparison because it's the same kind of setup with everyone fucking around it or whatever. And also, Riot are very good at using music in a way that no Counter-Strike tournament organisers...
Yeah.
Do you remember when we were in Copenhagen, we had to listen to fucking Alexi B God Mode? That was the worst 3 minutes of our lives before the major final.
Although, we need to take a break in a minute. I'm going to send you... I'm hoping we can put it on screen, like in editing or something. There is a Riot Games, I think it's an LCS final, where they had this band on with a female singer, and she could not sing. It is among the most like difficult to watch things I've ever seen. She's like in front of a massive crowd and she cannot sing.
That was the thing I was going to say. Other than that, like the musical acts before the Valorant final, it was like 15-20 minutes or whatever. It went on for a long time, and they had like the characters in the background with like this story animation. It was so good. Like it actually really added to the moment of it, and I wish that the majors had things like that, because otherwise I feel like a lot of the times the majors just feel like any other event except for maybe like Cologne, which probably beats it in terms of the idea of like gravitas or whatever, because ESL puts so much into the cathedral idea.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like the opening to Cologne is wicked. It's so good.
Yeah.
I don't think this. Okay. I don't know what's going on the screen. This is definitely not what I was looking for.
Fucking Charlie's put a fucking DJ Khaled at Overwatch. I'm done. Let's get our guest in, shall we? So Jack, do you find it hard to keep up with all the news in Counter-Strike?
I do. I took a weekend off and I came back to 6 new IGLs, 3 retirements, and apparently Navi's Waterboy got picked up by a top 20 team.
Right. That's why I've been relying on the TLDR newsletter. It's a bi-weekly email that keeps you up to speed on everything in the CS scene, without needing to scroll Reddit for 3 hours while questioning your life choices.
Yeah, it's like if HLTV had a baby with your funniest friend who actually watches every game. You get quick hits of news, spicy roster moves, upcoming match schedules, and even some insider gossip. All killer, no filler.
And let's be honest, some of these tournament formats, you need a guide just to figure out who's playing who. TLDR breaks it all down, so you actually know what the hell's going on.
Plus, it's funny. Like, actually funny. It's like reading a group chat between smart CS fans who roast everything in sight, but still care deeply about the game.
So if your brain's full, but your heart still beats for Counter-Strike, do yourself a favour. Sign up for the TLDR newsletter. It's free, fast, and guaranteed to make you smarter. Or at least sound smarter in Twitch chat.
Check out the link down below and subscribe, because the only thing more tragic than missing a major upset is not even knowing it happened.
TLDR. You don't have time to read everything, but you still want to sound like you did.
Hello and welcome to Brandon BDog Dog. I'm not sure if that is your surname, but it's what we're going with. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, not an official surname, but I'd hope to change it one day. That'd be good.
If you were
What
a
do you-
dog,
what do you-
what type of dog would you be?
I think, to be honest, like, unrealistic, I probably want to be, like, a golden retriever, because I think I've got, like, golden retriever energy. I'm quite loyal, trustworthy, and I can fall asleep in a couple of minutes, so...
Why did
I think,
you
know.
describe that as unrealistic? Would
I
it be
don't
more
know.
realistic if you were like
I
a
think
chihuahua?
Probably. I'm quite small, right? I'm like 5'10", so... but I'm not that feisty, so I don't think I would be a chihuahua.
Taller than me.
No, I think realistically, I don't know why I said unrealistic. I think I'd be a golden retriever. I think that's because I always wanted one.
Oh, never quite managed it.
I think
No,
I'd be a
not yet.
Rottweiler.
I don't know what I'd be. I've never actually put much thought into it.
Dachshund.
Right, excellent. Talk about Impact, Elliott. Fuck you.
Yeah, so we got the news this week that ESL Impact was shutting its doors. I'm not sure what the official term they
I
used
believe
was,
it was
but it was
Suspended.
suspended. Okay, that at least opens the door to a potential return at some point. Ran for 7 seasons. For those of you who don't know, ESL Impact was the women's league. ESL ran, and essentially they decided that it was no longer sustainable to run after 7 seasons. On screen, you currently have the viewership statistics as tweeted out by a friend of the podcast, Yumi, which gives some insight as to where that unsustainable label comes from. Brandon BDog Dog was a caster for ESL Impact, and his obviously now a little bit looking for work, and also wants to talk about Impact. So, yeah, what was like? When did you hear that it was being suspended?
When the tweet came out.
Okay. So it
didn't,
wasn't.
I didn't know. Nobody knew at all from our side until the tweet got published, and I was on the way back from holiday off a really long travel day, because you know what flights are like sometimes, and it was a bit of a nightmare. And I got sent this tweet, and I thought it was a joke. And then more people kept sending me it, and I was like, okay, no, this is actually real, this is happening. So yeah, I found out probably about like 20 minutes away from my house, but as the tweet dropped, literally like 5 minutes after.
Yeah,
Wow, okay,
I'd had a feeling that this was probably coming. Like, my expectation was that Impact would exist next year, and it would be all online, and then it would be canned in 27. So I'd been like trying to figure something out for a little while. I don't think many people knew this was coming. Like, I really think it took quite a lot of people by surprise, and probably a lot of people who worked on Impact within ESL did not know this was happening.
Yeah, I'd imagine that was also the case, because if there was going to be extensive meetings about it, I feel like we would have at least been in the loop a little bit, right? So I would assume that because it blindsided us, it probably blindsided a lot of the people that worked within the product as well.
Wouldn't be the first time. I know. So ESL used to produce Rocket League, and I think Blast managed to secure the rights of Rocket League. And the people who worked on Rocket League at ESL found out the day that Blast announced it. Like, they were completely blindsided. Which, like, I think ESL deliberately don't tell, like, some of their staff this. I think probably for, like, they don't want people to panic, I guess. But obviously, there's a lot of people in need of extra work. So they probably should have been told beforehand. But yeah, as Sam alluded to, I think there was some sort of idea that because when you look at the viewership figures, and obviously ESL reducing the size of their company massively in the last year, like it felt like it was going to happen at some point. But I think this came earlier than everyone was expecting.
Yeah. Look, it's one of those where obviously it's quite upsetting, and obviously it's quite a personal project that I've been a part of since the very start. So my view is obviously going to be a little bit more biased towards the scene in general. Like, I'm a huge supporter of the scene. So it's one of those where, yes, we didn't expect this to happen at all. And to be honest, the goal and obviously the entire message of ESL Impact when it first started was creating GG for all, creating that competitive space, and it wasn't about really being economically sustainable. There could have been a lot more things, I think, implemented sooner that would have maybe potentially helped that. And I think that the issue you've got is that they are such a big company, and maybe you don't have to run a tournament or at least one product with the idea of it always being a profit window, because if you were, I think they would have probably handled things a little bit differently here with ESL Impact and some of the decisions that they made across the 7, now 8 seasons. We are in the middle of our 8th season at the moment, and it will conclude at the end of the year at DreamHack in Stockholm. So it's one of those where we didn't expect it. I don't think anyone would have known about it internally, and it sucks, to be honest. Like, it really does suck, and the fact that it wasn't even moved online, as you say, like, I think that's important, Sam, like, to note, like, this could have been done in a different way. We didn't have to just go from 100 to 0 immediately, but that's the reality we find ourselves in, unfortunately.
What do you think about the actual, like, closure of it? Because I think it's pretty sad. I think, like, for yourself, for Freddie, Lucy, there's probably a ton of other talent I can't think of. But then
Sure.
you look at teams, and you've got, like, Flash is now the Liquid coach, and he was previously FlyQuest Red coach, if I remember right. So you've got all these people that have gotten so many starts and Impact, where Impact was contributing to the scene in such a way where it clearly was good for the scene, and it's good for women to have their own designated place in the scene. But what do you think about, ESL's actual decision to close it? Because although you said there are things they could have done, I know that certain things had been stripped back over the years anyway, like in terms of how it was viewed and all that. So do you think it was, like, understandable from the ESL perspective, or?
I'm gonna say no, just because the overall initiative was to create that sustainable playing field, and I think the way it was marketed was set up to me when I looked at it and when I obviously worked the product was you're creating a competitive environment. You're also just creating a roadmap for these players. Like you need to have this way of having a tournament that inspires the next generation, and that comes in the male scene quite easily, but it doesn't really have that in the women's scene. And it's almost, you had all the DreamHack showdowns before COVID, then we went into COVID where that didn't exist anymore, and it almost felt like ESL Impact was building the scene up from scratch again. And it would be, I think it'd be easier to view this as a sustainability issue if there was more TOs, I think, in the scene. But because there isn't, obviously this is the biggest women's event that we've had in terms of seasons for years now, and I'm worried that we aren't going to get there again, at least anytime soon. I really hope for it, of course, and I hope that other tournament organisers can look at this as an opportunity, because I think if you look at number one, 110,000 viewers. In the middle, we'll talk about that in a moment, but if we are looking at the positives right now, when there was interest initially, and then the ESL Impact Season 7 finals, you also had it being broadcast on the main ESL stream. It was instead of the show match. The grand final was on stage. There was a live crowd there as well, and there is crowds normally for ESL Impact, but it's on obviously a much smaller scale because it's either in the Expo Center or it's at a DreamHack. But again, 102,000 people there, so there is definitely a market for it. It's just dependent on how you do it and how you, I think, market it to a certain extent, and how the public perceive it as well. And I think there's definitely a demand there. It's just a shame that it wasn't sort of replicated. If we had 100,000 or we had like 50k across all the seasons, then maybe it would be a little bit more sustainable, you know?
I will say, if somebody does pick up Impact, or not Impact, but picks up the women's scene and starts running tournaments, I would say the ESL's sort of mission in that, though, in as you say, offering that roadmap, building these players up, it's almost succeeded if
I'd agree,
if it gets picked up. So, and I do think, like, I'm not saying you do, but there's been people who are like really going after ESL for this decision, and I just think like they're the only ones who were running this in the first place. Like, I think that actually they don't get their they didn't get the sort of love that I thought they would from the scene for like, you know, the whole smile because it happened, not don't cry because it's over.
Do you think
that's a fair comment?
Do you think ESL are somewhat to blame though? Because we will obviously talk about blame a little bit because it'll come in the reactions. But like, did ESL market it enough? Did they use their mainstreams enough rather than the Impact stream? Did they schedule things in the right times? Like, I know Season 8 finals happened like slap bang in the middle of the major, like in the nicest way. How many people that would have watched that or maybe would have tuned in because it was on are going to do that over whichever random Swiss stage of the major is playing just because it's the major? Like, are the things where ESL didn't do enough?
In terms of marketing it, I think the issue you've got with this, and people will view ESL Impact, but it really is a passion project. Like, it was set up by people that used to work in DreamHack that came over into EFG, and so they didn't initially have all of these resources at their disposal. I know obviously there was a lot of backlash, and there was a lot of backlash about ESL just dropping it, and they've got all this money, so to speak, but ESL Impact never really had like that budget. That was never really a consideration when making the broadcasts in the first instances. So that's why you see so many of them feature at DreamHacks. That's why they feature alongside IEM Dallas, because it's already being used for that. It isn't sort of like ESL Impact hired out its own arenas, sold its own tickets. It wasn't sort of in that vein. So could they have done more in terms of the marketing? Of course they could have. They could have definitely put more on the mainstream if possible, but obviously at that point when ESL Impact first started, you had so many seasons of Challenger League. You had ESL Challenger as well. You obviously got all of the main broadcasts and the events that run alongside it. the reality of the situation is there isn't enough space in the calendar to probably have a designated week where it is just women's CS, and that's the belly of the beast in terms of how the CS calendar is jam-packed anyway, and that's good and bad for viewers because it does mean you get a dilution of what's going on over a set period of time. So yes, definitely it should have been advertised more on the mainstreams. I think the decision to turn the show matches into the grand final was a really positive step, but I would argue it should have happened a lot sooner, and I really wish it did happen a lot sooner.
That should have happened with season 3. Even season 1, really, but like definitely
even at
season 3.
Katowice, we did a standalone event here. So what people might not be aware of who don't watch ESL Impact as well is you've got these 8 regular seasons. There was also some standalone events. There was ESL Impact Valencia within the first year. There was ESL Impact Katowice, and at that moment when you're saying, okay, we're bringing ESL Impact to Katowice, that grand final should have been on the stage of the show match.
Yeah, it should have.
What I will say on this point about marketing is that I've actually tried to make content around Impact and found actually to be a lot more resistance you'd imagine. So when I worked at ESL on YouTube, I wanted to do a video previewing. I can't remember if it was the season 4, the season 5 final, or whatever it was. I wanted to do a video previewing that, and I was basically told that it would take too long because everyone at Impact wanted to like go through it with a fine comb, make sure I wasn't saying anything that was they didn't like. I think there was a little bit of like, it was difficult. We tried to get somebody on this podcast as well to talk about Impact before one of the events. Logan was a big fan of Impact. He used to watch every event. So we tried to get people on, and it was like we sort of got bogged down in bureaucracy, which I think really didn't help. Like when people want to talk about your event, make it as easy as possible. I found that baffling that they made it difficult at times.
Yeah, I mean,
I just found that infuriating, to be honest.
I think it's fair that ESL could have done more. I mean, there's a few. Charlie, if you go on the last tweet on your browser, because I'm sure that'll be one of them. What about the other one? This one. I think, like, you know, there's a lot of people blaming ESL because there was also the Cologne ticket thing recently, but like, people have to understand Cologne tickets and Impact are nothing to do with each other. Absolutely nothing to do with each other. And by the time this podcast is out, there'll also be a new deep dive written by me. Subscribe to the TLDR newsletter. Smiley face. Which is all about the Cologne ticket pricing and why it's actually not that big of a deal. But I understand why it was a bad look for ESL.
Yeah, the timing of it is probably like, I think
not
one of the sticking
really,
points. But
really not great.
Yeah, mid-season is really bad optics.
Mid-season's harsh, but also as you say, the timing of the Cologne thing, and I think it's really important that you are saying this and people recognise it. Like these things are independent of each other. Just because they exist under the same umbrella, they don't. There's no overlap between the two of them.
So there's people blaming the ESL finances, which do whatever, because I'm sure you have a complete understanding of the fucking ESL business practices and the accounts. And of course, if you do that, you then reach the Saudis, which, I mean, like, frankly, like, I don't want to just outright defend the Saudis, but you got to understand that they are not, they are not puppet masters for ESL and everyone's on strings. Like, of course they own it, but they don't make decisions. Like, I know I've seen a couple of tweets where people are like, oh, the Saudis found out there's trans, as soon as they found out they need to care about the female scene, they dip. Impact was started after the Saudis bought and merged EFG. I've seen another tweet somewhere about, like, oh, as soon as they found out there was trans players in Season 7, they killed it. Please be serious. Like, actually be serious. The Saudis did not fucking kill Impact. Like, it's such a ridiculous criticism to make. Sorry, I feel like you were going to say something then, bro.
No, it's just people. It just makes me really angry when people speak on things that they don't understand, and like it just infuriates me.
Also, should we talk about the reactions in general? Because Charlie, if you go onto the Zaz retweet, I think it was the image that you've got for everyone. Yeah, this. So I know Brandon, me and you have spoken about this entire topic when we were arranging the show. So do you wanna take this one and talk about how generally just fucking annoying this is?
Yeah, I can speak about it a little bit. It's one of those things where it's like, what was nice in a really bittersweet way is I think the reaction overall for people seeing this tweet was, in terms of the ESL Impact one, was actually pretty positive towards the scene. I think most people actually recognise that there is a need, and certainly a definite competitive need for there to be a women's scene that exists, and there is plenty of examples of it within other sports and esports. Obviously, the direct comparison is going to be Game Changers, but again, completely different circumstance with Valorant and Valve, because Valve are a hands-off developer, whereas Riot are pretty head-on, so they can afford to put stuff in the game because they run all of their tournaments. But I think the thing that gets me the most in the bittersweet way, as I'm saying, is the fact that there was all this support, I think, is absolutely fantastic, and I think hopefully that is the same weight carried forward for the future. But in the same breath, it would be nice if we had this during the time. It's almost like when people react after a crisis has happened, rather than during all of the good ongoing efforts. And it makes me upset because we talk about it on ESL Impact all the time, and that's my catchphrase on the show, is just the level of the competition is raising from season to season. It's just so true, and I hope that people actually become a little bit more informed. It's a shame that it looks like ESL Impact ending or being suspended, has taken a lot more people to become more aware of the women's scene, and I hope that they can again keep this energy moving forward when we get tournaments again, when there are more sort of potential opportunities for women within the space. Because if everyone can start championing it and everyone can start being noisy in a positive way as when the events are going on as well, then that will just help succeed it even further.
Yeah, for me it's so infuriating. Like, I'm not going to pretend like I watched Impact all the time. I didn't. When that Cato event was on, I was fortunate enough to be in Cato, and Elliott will back me up on this because he was sat next to me. We watched a lot of Impact in Cato.
We did, yeah.
And I did quite a few Impact interviews. The Impact players generally are just some of the loveliest people, really open to interviews, just really nice to be around. And, you know, I watched it a handful of times other than that. I wasn't a big Impact fan, I'm not going to pretend to be. But it's so infuriating seeing just the amount of people now who are like, I can't believe they've got rid of this. How could they do this? It's disgusting. It's all this, it's all that. And it's so clear that they're just looking for brownie points. They're just looking for that like little pinch of social credit before that system comes in and ruins our lives. Where you then see players, so we previously
needlessly political.
Well, whatever. We previously had the Zaz fucking retweet, and now we've got a Giuliano tweet on where it says, mixed feelings over the lack of support from our community through these years, and whenever there's a scandal in the women's scene, suddenly people show up and want to help. That must be so shit for these players, especially someone like Giuliano, who has given, you know, most of her fucking adult life to competing, to just have these things where, you know, people, we've looked at the viewing figures, people weren't watching, people didn't care, but they all come out as soon as it gets canned and say how important it was. Fucking, do you really think that, or is this performative activism, as I saw one person call ESL 2 minutes after following the Impact account? It's ridiculous. Like, how shit must that be for the players to actually have to see that?
Yeah, it sucks, and it sucks as well, because obviously the lack of investment now from ESL, which is a great shame, it is now like that was the way in, and that was probably like that was the biggest tournament in the women's scene, and now you don't have that. Suddenly, because of a tweet, loads of players are now thinking about what are they going to do? What are the next steps? And it's a shame that, again, we've got, as you say, people speaking out about it, but people that didn't actually watch the show. And that's why I'm saying keep this energy. It's like, it's really not, it's actually nice in a weird way that you're speaking about this now, but when we do get tournaments in the future, because I'm sure we will get tournaments in the future, let's maintain the hype of advocating the women's scene. I hope it's not just a flash in the pan of, again, a crisis has happened, ESL Impact gets suspended, people speak out about it, and then they're not interested in the long run.
Yeah. So I've got like one final point I want to make, and then there's two questions I wanted to ask both of you before we wrap up the Impact stuff. So my final point was just, I think a lot of people are very quick to blame ESL. They're very quick to blame the Saudis because that's easy. But I think maybe some blame should go towards organisations, right? I don't want to criticise people for business ideas, but Charlie, if you just click on the first image in this tweet I made. So this was this is the EU groups for Impact Season 4, and I just want you to look at the amount of organisations you see there. You see NIP, G2, Guild. Obviously, were a bit of a shit show, but they exist. Ents, Game Elysian, One Win, VP, Nine Pandas, Big, Enigma Galaxy later became Imperial, and Na'Vi. Now switch the image, Charlie. Look at that. Imperial, NIP, and Big. The rest of them all gone. And ESL offered incentives for organisations, by the way. They could earn money from placement and from making content. And it's all gone. Like, that also isn't sustainable. Where all the onus is on the teams.
Yeah.
But so my two questions then. One of them, do you think what happened at the start of the year with VRS invites and Imperial Valkyries getting to play in mixed tournaments hurt Impact?
No, definitely not. I don't think it did. If anything, I think it hurt. That's actually not the right word. It didn't hurt anything. If anything, it put more eyes on the scene, which I think was really important. I think that they played really well at Blast, and then Katowice was a little bit unfortunate for them because they had to play with a stand-in for the majority of the tournament. But their coach, Bubble, who hasn't played competitive Counter-Strike in a very long time.
Almost took a map off Furia with him, to be fair.
Exactly. They ran it back to overtime. I think they were down a deficit as well, and they ran it all the way back. And people, again, they can come at me and I'll be like, oh, well, they didn't win, did they? Oh, you're celebrating a comeback victory. And it's like, with respect, like before VRS, there wasn't a clear-cut way for these teams who were doing well in Impact to get invited to any of these events anyway. And for Imperial in particular, to be considered and have a legacy within ESL Impact, to then go to Blast Bounty, to then go to IM Katowice, to then attend a PGL event, all in that short space of time, that jump up to competition is huge because you're playing against the best teams in the world. I think they did really well for the limited chance that they've had before, and I don't think that definitely hurt Impact. If anything, it probably should have drawn more attention to it, and it's a shame that it didn't. And for Imperial, I think for the scene in general as well, I think it was actually good for ESL Impact Season 7. We got new champions. Imperial didn't win it, so they've gone to all these Tier 1 tournaments. They've shown what the women's scene is about, and yet they still don't win the event. The development of the players has been fantastic, and it is to touch on your point, it has been very good, and I mentioned this in my tweet, it has been good that organisations have remained within ESL Impact. Would I love there to be more organisations within ESL Impact? Of course I would, because it means that these players can play full-time. These players have access to resources they've never had before. They have coach, they have analysts, they get better prac groups. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. That's also the reality of the situation with Imperial being invited into the VRS network and playing in the Blast tournaments, is they got better invites, they got better prac groups, and it means that they can all improve together. And no, I don't think it hurt them at all. I think it was a good thing for the scene, to be honest.
Well, my final question then, given what we've seen, because you said earlier, right, Valve are a hands-off developer, and that has always been true until this year, when they made the VRS system, and we've had so many issues with the VRS system. Before you were here, Brandon, we moaned about the VRS system for about 20 minutes. It's typically what we do on this podcast. Now that they aren't so hands-off, is it time for Valve to just take responsibility of the women's scene? Should they be the ones that create the new version of ESL Impact? And, you know, maybe it even leads into what would be a women's major?
That would be fantastic. I mean, the thing is, I'm going to be biased about this, aren't I? But I will be biased, and that's fine. I think that would be absolutely phenomenal if they were able to do that. And you're right, the fact that they were hands-on this year and that they've implemented VRS, maybe that's a step in the direction that they want to go in, being a little bit more hands-on with their game as developers. And hopefully from this you can see enough noise has been created where Valve can step in and do something. That'd be honestly so phenomenal. I mean, you look at Riot and Game Changers, you look at what they've built up and what they've achieved over the years. Like, even when Game Changers is on, like, a few weeks ahead of time, like, they put like in-game adverts of the players. Like, you can't ignore it, and that's fantastic. And maybe having that clear distinction, maybe having Valve taking over that responsibility would be good for the scene, because we spoke about the dilution of competitions. Well, if the developer is actively hands-on, then you can't ignore it.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that, Elliott, before we wrap up Impact?
As much as I think it would be amazing for the women's scene, I just can't see.
I can't see it
Valve
happening
stepping
for
in
what
and
it's
doing it,
worth.
No.
Yeah,
I can't see it.
it would
I
be
think-
fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it would be amazing for that scene. I think you're really what you're looking for is Blast to see this and go, ESL are getting some heat for this. It's a easy PR win, like, immediately. Just, you know, start Blast, whatever they want to call it, and just run essentially Impact. I mean, you can probably hire a lot of the same people because a lot of those people care so much. So, like, I know a lot of this, or I knew a lot of the stuff behind Impact because I worked on one of them, and, like, I know a lot of those people would probably leave ESL for Blast if such an opportunity came up. I'm pretty sure, Brandon, you would want to cast it no matter where it was. Like, you could hire the same people, you'd get the same teams. Like, I think it's an immediate PR win for anyone who picks this up. It's just a case of, like, who's going to bite that bullet, who's going to take that chance. And I think I do kind of think somebody will. I just don't think it'll be Valve. Yeah, I think that's quite a nice way to finish it, right? Like, yeah. Sam, Brandon, is ESL Pro League better than the Major?
I'm gonna let Brandon take that one. I don't. I don't
Oh,
want to
brilliant.
comment.
Yeah, cheers, mate. No, I don't think so. Like, Pro League's great. Like, I always look forward to Pro League in the calendar, and I suppose if you take a look at the brackets, like, right now in Stage 2, it looks quite fun, but there's magic in the Major, right? You can't not say that. So I think the Major's always going to be special for what it is, and I don't think anything can top it. And what I will say is the Major at Cologne next year is going to go so hard.
It will be
Anyone can afford the tickets.
good. I do really want to be there for that. I mean, I just think this Pro League could have easily been so terrible, but the fact that Hotu and Inner Circle both beat the Mongols, it just is quite fun, isn't it?
Yeah. But by the way, I made this point that can't happen at the Major. Like, Hotu can't go through a qualifier, go through the first stage, and then, like, start beating top teams. I know, obviously, they didn't do so well afterwards, but, like, beat top teams. Like, and somebody was like, "Oh yeah, but it can." It can. Like, obviously, it won't happen in the sense that, like, a big team won't get upset by a really small team. But yeah, but that's literally what I was talking about. So it can't. But that's what I like about Pro League is you still have this insane bracket. You have BO3s in the opening games.
That's good.
Which is good. You've still got all the top teams here, but there's also a qualifier. Format-wise, it's a knockout. It's just, it's whether or not you like the casting. You have some people who hate it and some people who love it.
I think it can be quite fun, to be fair.
It definitely can. This event's great. This is a great event.
Yeah. I do think, though, there's obviously a VRS issue, because they are our favourite things that we need to talk about with with this. And that's the whole FaZe and Rain debacle. Charlie, if you switch over to that, and Elliot, you can run down the news.
Yeah, so FaZe changed their roster, if you're not aware. They cut Rain to bring back Twists. Except they didn't, because right before they played their opening game of ESL Pro League, ESL were like, hang on, they've got their fingers out, we're counting to 3, and when you've only got 2 players that were invited, you're going to have to leave or bring somebody back that was invited. So they had to kick Jacob for an event and bring back Rain, who had to fly in from wherever he lives. And, he was chilling at the beach, and all of a sudden he gets the call as like one last job for the boys. So Rain's back in for the event, but they also had to forfeit their first game because he couldn't like teleport there, which is kind of weak from him, to be honest. But like, I find it very odd. Immediately, people were like, "Oh, ESL should have told them before that," and like, I'm sure they should. But FaZe also shouldn't have put out a roster that only had 2 players that were invited. What are you doing?
Because it was Skulls, right? It was Skulls, and then Simple was registered for the major. So
Jesus.
No, I think
Skulls.
I think
I think it was
Rain
Skulls.
I think Rain was on the roster.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So
But
the call would have been him, Carrigan, Frozen, and then they had a Legion Skulls for the Dallas event, I want to
Yeah,
say,
Dallas.
and then for the major they had Simple as well.
Yeah, maybe you'll have a different take on this, Brandon. But like, people blaming FaZe, people blaming ESL, but both parties realised this so late that they couldn't get Rain to Stockholm. Bear in mind, Rain was probably in Norway. They couldn't get Rain to Stockholm in time for their first game because it was realised that late on a fucking media day, most likely. Like, I think this is fucking Valve's fault, if I'm being honest.
It might have even come late. It might have even come later because I think they tweeted, like, all the FaZe players were like tweeting out like emojis on the first day of Pro League.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
possibly,
literally
yeah.
on the day
Was
of
it
the
on the
game.
day?
It wasn't even media day.
It was
It was
on
on
the
the day of the
day.
game.
But this is insane. Like, this if the tournament organisers can't track this, and the teams can't track this, surely this is an issue with the overcomplication of VRS. Surely it
I
is.
think so. But also, FaZe shouldn't be putting out a roster they're not allowed. By the way, FaZe are qualified to the major, obviously. They will have, by the time the invites go locked for VRS, I don't think they've played a single game with the roster they're going to play at the major.
No.
So,
No, they haven't.
So how do we know they're one of the best teams in the world? That's for the
Well,
earlier
because
part.
that's tied to the core, right? In theory.
Yeah, but when the core had, like, if you put Skulls and like fucking Mighty Max on that team, that core all of a sudden is not one of the best teams in the world.
Well, sure.
I'm not saying
Counter-Strike's
I'm not
always been based
saying-
on cores, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Also, that
sure,
was
but-
really mean on Mighty Max. Skulls is
True.
fucking rubbish.
Sorry, it was meaner on. Yeah, no,
no,
that's-
Skulls is terrible. I'm not having this.
no, fine.
But
Yeah, no, like I don't understand how it got this far. What are FaZe doing? Why have you put out a roster that you can't play?
I think-
What are you doing?
I think the entire phase situation, though, it obviously highlights this issue with an overcomplication of VRS, but also just how the fact that Twists won't be getting stickers for this major because they haven't played a required number of games by the invite deadline. There's still basically 2 months until the major begins. By that point, he will have played so many maps of FaZe. Why isn't he getting his stickers? It's so stupid. Like, this entire
It'd be so
system
funny
is
if they lose
stupid.
every game now.
It would be good. But
It'd be so good.
I
I'd be so vindicated.
don't know, man. I find the system to be really
I feel
bizarre.
bad for Jacob because if you actually look at the team, if you look
yeah.
at the team sheets for EPL, like they had Twists as a sub, so it's like, well, if he's the sub and you've been trying to integrate Jacob into your roster, surely you'd just say, well, we'll play with our 5 that we've been playing with before we brought you in.
Oh yeah, surely
So-
that's another thing where ESL should have enforced that Twist is the one that doesn't play.
Oh well, he's a
think
sub.
at this
He's a
point-
sub, so you can choose like whether he's playing
I
or not.
guess,
I don't think
yeah.
that's the thing. I think it's from a player POV, I think that's harsh on the youngster. But obviously, it's out of control is not a fair thing to say because obviously it was in the control of both FaZe and ESL to an extent. But with that being said, it was FaZe's ultimate decision to say, look, we'll play
Yeah.
with Rain instead of Jacob. So it's from his POV. I'm a little bit upset for him, but hopefully he's still so young that he can just bounce back from it. And hey, maybe if FaZe have a good run, maybe the idea for them is they have a good run here at Pro League and it sets them up for the major. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, so you said bounce back then, and this is something I was going to ask you. Do you not think this could hurt Jacob long term? Because, like, obviously Rain's come in, and Jacob within this lineup is the Rain replacement. If Rain plays quite well, and then Jacob struggles in the next event or the next couple of events, is that not going to play on his mind more because of Pro League than if he just struggled?
I don't think so, to be completely honest with you. I think it's more the fact of, I think people have unrealistic expectations of people making the jump to tier 1 because we've seen it in the case of Donk. You could argue Kiyosuke as well, but it's like these players set unrealistic expectations that everyone who is playing in tier 2 will immediately make the jump to tier 1 and translate well within a few events, and that, by and large, this isn't the majority of the population when it comes to Counter-Strike players. So as long as, like, FaZe, and obviously I'm sure Carrigan will be telling him, like, look, this isn't a slight on you, and we're not expecting you to. Also, if he is the Rain replacement, like, it's a bit unfair just in general if you say, okay, we want you to play like Rain, and we need you to play like Rain in like 3 weeks. Like, that's not realistically, that's not happening, is it?
Yeah, no,
it's absolutely not. But let's actually talk about what happened with FaZe, because obviously they had to forfeit their first game against G2, which is just obviously a loss, and they then followed that up with a loss to 3D Max, which again they had a stand-in that's not their real roster, whatever, but it's still a little worrying for them because 3D Max have not been amazing of late. They're obviously they're a good team. I've been a bit of an advocate for them, but still a little worrying. But they did manage to avoid the 3-0 because they knocked out Astralis. Now, I'm a little sick of talking about Astralis, but also they're at the major, and they're not very good.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, Brandon, you might have a different take about this roster, but I
don't.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah,
all right.
I said in the deep dive, you just got to blow this shit up. Like, this roster's terrible. It's never going to be good. They need to stop trying to make Stair happen because he is just pants. He is Waitrose Borup.
This is the sort of team that would go out in an RMR, but unfortunately, they have to be there. Another team who will be there is 3D Max, who we mentioned as sort of. They're fine, and they then, after beating FaZe in the 0-1 bracket, they lost that opening game to Furia. But after that, they then went and beat Na'Vi, which is... Look, you beat FaZe and Na'Vi in an event, and I've just said you're not even been that good recently. Pretty happy with that. That's as legit a run as a team like 3D Max can get at this sort of stage, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been harsh on 3D Max, mostly because they're French. But I do quite like Maka. Well, listen, Brandon, I'm English through and through. I've got to have my set things. They are the old enemy. But actually, Brandon, I wondered.
Too many enemies.
I wondered your take on this. Do you think that they will be a consistently better team now Gravity's taken over as IGL? Because the fact they did that really surprised me, but it seems to be going quite well so far.
Yeah, that really surprised me as well, because obviously he was originally recruited as the rookie, and now he's taken over a lot more leadership responsibilities. Like, I'll be totally level with you guys. Like, I've not watched too much of Pro League due to, like, everything happening sort of in my circle, just sort of imploding a little bit. But as a result, like, I obviously don't see 3D Max anymore. I used to commentate them an awful lot, and what's good about this team and what they've always had is resilience. And the fact that you've now integrated Gravity in, you've moved him into an in-game leader, to answer your question, I think that's a real testament just to this roster and how they've been throughout their years, where they've always been competitive, they've always been a contender, and now, they're currently playing against Mouse as we're recording this, and they got owned on Inferno, classic. But there you go, resilience, 7-5, T-side overpass. Mac has been playing out of his mind. That clip on train, that's crazy.
That clip is naughty. Maybe Charlie just put that in just for the sake of it, because that's going to be one of the better clips of the year.
Lovely, lovely double from him, but now they start to topple, and that's what. Laser beam in the hands of Maka. Okay, that is stunning. That is pristine. That is precision.
Oh, that's probably player of the year. It's insane.
I don't know about player of the year. It is a pro league Swiss stage. Like let's
We still
park
have the
that one
major.
there.
We still have the major to come with Donk in this form, and Monacy looking back. If we go, if you look at the teams who are 3-0, you got Donk and Monacy. When you talk about play of the year, those two, I think Monacy won it. Didn't he win it with like a Galil play like one year? It was like, oh no, it was at the
Probably.
1v5 with the AWP, I think.
It was against MIBR and Inferno. That one.
I'm thinking of one that was on
B-side?
Anubis. I was thinking he won one on Anubis.
No,
that
I
was
know
a
what play you're
1v5.
thinking of. Yeah, I feel like that was also against a Brazilian team, wasn't it?
I have a feeling it was against whoever Nork was playing on, but I could be completely wrong. Either way, the fact that we've thought of different ridiculous Monacy clips means he's well in the running for play of the year, even without having one yet.
It was tongue in cheek, but it was just insane, right? Like I don't know.
I mean,
this 3D Max team, what I love is the fact that they keep going to these events. Everyone, I think, writes them off, and then they do well. So I think that is a sign of resiliency. That's a sign of I think they benefit from being underdogs. I think they've always sort of been an underdog team, just in not so much tier 2 space, but definitely like tier 1.5, tier 1. And because there's no expectations on them, the fact that they keep getting these BRS invites and the fact that they keep playing well, I think is probably the best state they can be in. And then heading towards the major, like they're going to be thriving in that environment.
We often talk about 3D Max as the replacement big in terms of like the gatekeepers of tier 1.
Okay.
But one thing I will say about 3D Max is that they are beginning to win me over and beginning to impress me in that they're actually starting to rack up consistently decent wins against the teams ahead of them. And I actually think, like, as much as I hate to say it, this team could have a very big 2026.
Yeah, they're a good team who abuse mistakes as well as any tier 1 team.
Yeah.
They just don't necessarily create opportunities in the way like a team like Furia can, like a team like Vitality can. I feel like they don't, like against a really solid team. I think they hit a bit of a brick wall, but when they're against a team who are a bit more open, like Mouse play in a way that's like there are gaps against Mouse. They're good enough that you don't notice a lot of time, but there are gaps and they will find them. They will abuse any mistake you make, which is why I always said they're like big. Because they just find your weakness and they just keep hitting you in it. Like you got weak legs that kick you in the shins over and over again. Like that's how 3D Max play, which I kind of like.
You spoke about the in-game leader. I want to touch on the coach as well. Like the fact that you've replaced that entire like main spine, as it were, of the team, because I think he only came in like July, June of this year. So you've changed your in-game leader, you changed your coach, and yeah, like 2 months.
2 months,
right?
Ago. It was
Like,
Striker.
That's really impressive.
Oh, Wassing.
Yeah. No, it is.
Yeah, no, that is very impressive.
Very impressive, and probably also why they seem to be improving as a team. And talking about improving as a team, I also wanted to touch on Falcons. It actually seems like that roster is beginning to gel now. I've always been very heavily against this Falcons team. I think it lacks, like, you know, your kind of bit perfecto gym fat kind of figure. There's probably too many naturally aggressive players.
No such thing.
But they went 3-0 here, and I honestly didn't think this Falcons had a 3-0 in them because of their team makeup. So, fair fucks. I don't know.
Yeah.
Go on,
They've got Monacy, Kaiosuke, Nico. Like
Nico,
they are going
yeah.
to go 3-0 at some point. Like,
yeah.
you only need one player to show up to beat somebody.
They did get tonked by Mouse on Inferno though. That one's quite funny.
Yeah, which like it's gonna happen because you said like there is no spine to this team. They're just all like they're all limbs.
Brandon,
But like when those limbs are Exodia, it's fine.
who would you sign? as the fifth and final £1 million signing for Falcons.
They just went 3-0, bro. Why you want
Yeah,
us so
yeah, but you know
excited?
Falcons are going to do this. So you know. I'm just curious
Yeah,
if you'd
I
agree
think-
with us.
I think Bit is a great choice.
Yeah.
To be honest,
That's it,
especially
we both
because
said.
you could take him out of that. Now is probably the appropriate time to kind of get him out of Navi because of how like middle in they're looking right now.
Oh, definitely.
I think that's probably the one guy I'd say that just instantly elevates the team to the next level. I don't like the Kicksan slander. I think Kicksan's alright.
Kicksan's great.
He's
I-
fantastic.
Oh
Oh,
no, I think Kicksan's brilliant.
No, we're Kicksan fans on this
Okay, cool.
podcast.
Lovely.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm in the right place then.
He also makes some
I-
complete maniac plays sometimes. It's really enjoyable to watch. Just like one round, like 5 seconds into Ancient, he's already in red. Just don't really know how it's happened, but he's got a Mac 10 and he's killed someone. It's great. I love him.
I loved him in Paris anyway because I thought like what he did with Apex was great, and then we met him outside after they beat Liquid
He's such a
2-0.
legend.
And I think Sam asked him something like, about it, and he was like, he just sort of shrugged his shoulders and went, "Yeah, it was pretty easy. Like we knew exactly what they were going to do when they did it."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, you're cold, mate. You're immediately like
Yeah,
top
yeah.
5 in the game leaders in the world for me after that answer." Like, we love Kicksan. I was trying to think of like what the funniest answer would be, and I have decided it is minus Kicksan plus Jame, and just completely haramble that, like, actually just turn Koyosuke into fame, and just like.
You don't do
Mate,
that
like-
anymore on Parivision, man. You seen all the young aggro riflers that are on that team now? Like they
Yeah,
they don't
because-
play VP.
Yeah, but Fame and Flit were also aggro riflers. It's just James then
Did
sat
you
behind
see-
them trading, which is what he does now.
Did you see that horrible fucking German CS Leagues account tweeted?
Oh, he said
bigger
that Big
after
was- yeah,
Jane.
Big
Can
gonna
you
get
imagine
Jane,
how
yeah.
Oh,
awful
please.
that would be?
I think a funny signing as well would be if we're speaking about like your perfecto bit players get Norbert because obviously up and coming talent.
Love Norbert.
Proper soldier.
Love Norbert.
Proper soldier.
Yeah.
Him and Tessez like stand above all as soldiers.
Madden was my guy
Oh,
for a
Madden's
soldier.
a soldier.
Madden is a soldier.
Speaking
James and Norbert for Kicksan and Tessa.
speaking about strange roster moves, Charlie, bring up the Taken of the week. Right, minus some pious plus Grix. Trust. We're moving on. We're not talking about that. I don't care. Talk about Spirit. Fucking wrap it up with a team that I think, now I've watched them play.
What is this?
Oh,
That's Taken.
He's,
That's just
he's
our
the
local
resident
lunatic.
TLDR helmet wearer.
Okay.
Look, I think I when I introduced some of my real life friends to social media manager of TLDR Dickel, I refer to him as a local eccentric I found on the street, and Taken's like a level above that.
Can we talk about Grix or not really? We've got time to do that.
Yeah, if you want to.
Just really quickly, like I don't agree with this. But number one,
We rarely
But-
agree with things Taken sets. Don't worry about that.
Yeah,
but
he's
the
great.
fact, he was on loan to Guns, and they were actually looking really good with him on the team, and then they just stopped his loan, and I don't know why. It just upset me because if you look at his recent rating, he's unbelievable. So maybe it's internal things with Griggs.
Well, apparently he is going to...
Almost certainly.
Apparently there is a chance he's
It's
going
always
to
internal things.
big, right? Apparently that is a small
For God's
chance.
sake.
He's going to big.
God's sake.
Well, apparently, yeah.
Oh, that's ruined my day. Let's
it's
talk about.
Oh, 1.09. Oh, shame. It was better than that the other week.
Yeah,
It was like
no,
1.2 the other week.
I'd
Yeah.
like to see Grix get a proper chance, because whatever happened with Heroic
They're not big.
was fucked. Oh yeah, but not big. But yeah,
Put
I
him on
wanted
liquid
to
or something.
I wanted
No.
to end off by just talking about Spirit real quick. Now I've seen them play with Tania, I think I might have changed my mind in that we're not getting a dark horse winning the major. I think it might be Spirit.
Donk's
Tania
just the
is
chosen one.
No, I don't even care about Donk, man. Tania is just so good.
This is definitely like when I was like, oh no, actually, Wicadia is the truth. Like this is definitely that. Like
No, Tania, no,
or like, oh, Sadio Mane is actually better than Salah. No, he's not.
no, because
No, he's not.
No, because Wicardi is a myth. Wicardi was always a myth.
No, Wicadia was
But,
so
like,
good.
Well, Cardi
Timmy-
was really good.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, he's a
yes,
myth.
Wicardi.
He's Turkish Diha. That was horrible, actually. No, Wicardi is far better than Diha. Diha's a fucking bum. But Tania, man.
Oh my
Tania is
God.
fucking excellent. Like,
Oh, yeah, he's
Tania
great.
is so good.
He's great.
Where did he come from? Like, actually, like...
Yeah, he was like just a piss random, wasn't he? Like, actually, nobody.
Did you play on Webster's, or am I making that up?
Oh, no, Charlie,
Webster's
look,
is
like...
If anyone knows, you do, because we definitely.
I can't remember.
Actually,
I
who the fuck
don't
did he
think
play
it was. I think it was Xenex on. Yeah, he was a Webster's. Come on.
What is a Webster's? Like, actually, what the fuck? Is that like a Belarusian team or something?
Yeah.
He was also on Gun 5, Guns.
Yeah, he
whatever
was
they're
playing.
called.
He was playing with ZNX Box.
Heavy God.
Oh,
Yes.
Duke
we like
Fissura.
Box. Oh, Lollipop 21.
I don't understand the Duke Fissura thing, by the way, because I got told that he was the analyst for Ho2, and then he gave up and just became the star player.
Respect.
That's what I got told.
That was his
When I
Pokemon
was-
evolution.
So no, sorry. When I was at university, I did sports journalism, and I was told to cover the futsal team. I went to one of their training sessions and was like, "These guys are shit," and joined the team. That's basically what Duke Fissura done. He's gone like he's watched one frack. He's like, I could fucking do better than this lot, and just put himself in the roster. Respect.
I got a question. Obviously, you spoke about Zontix. You would have spoken about Zontix leaving and the Spirit making these changes. Do you think there's a reality where Zwei gets cut and Zontix comes back?
Yeah. I think it's potentially quite likely.
I'd rather see Magic's back.
Magic's his pants, man.
So.
You just like him, which is fine.
Yeah, I just like him. I didn't say I think he's better. I just said I'd rather see him back. I just miss Magic.
I'm assuming with
like
this
it.
again, not watch Spirit since Tanir's come in, but I'm expecting with this that Zwei's now taking Zontic spots.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he
I
had
know,
anyway.
I know
It was weird.
Tanir has practically every spot he'd ever want. Zwei's got a few more of his old spots, but he's still changed more. The thing that makes me think Zontix will come back is obviously, like, the Spirit post was worded really weirdly, but also I know how much Spirit paid for Zwei, and it really wasn't much. Like, he doesn't have to do much for someone to look at him in December after the major and realise, like, Spirit can make easy profit and he'd still be a pretty cheap signing for someone who looked like he was going to go on and be a star player of a top 10 team. Because he was phenomenal during Austin.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable.
There's also always loads of teams who want to sign Russian-speaking players.
Yeah, and
There's just always loads.
I think, unfortunately, if this roster doesn't succeed, Zwei will be the scapegoat of it. And I also think, regardless of how good he is, Zontix will inevitably come back. But yeah, my main point with Spirit, because they also went Prio here, is just I've always wondered whether it was impossible to have a third star on Spirit just because of how good Donk and Shiro are and how much space they may take. But I always said if they could find that third star, they actually might become unstoppable. And I think Tanir is probably the best person for that because he is just better better than Zontix at similar things, and also better than Zwei at similar things at this point in time. And I really do think like this team could be about to become very dangerous.
Yeah, completely agree. They are quite possibly the best team in the world because at the moment it's a little bit in the air. Obviously, Vitality lost. Did they lose the opening game? Was it? Yeah, they lost the opening game to Gentlemates, 2-0.
That was it, yeah.
They're all of a sudden super fragile. Mouse are you just can never call Mouse the best team in the world no matter what, because they will just bottle it. It's almost like Spirit Falcons just look like the front runners at the moment, and then behind them you have Furia and Vitality.
I probably wouldn't say Falcons still.
You wouldn't?
No.
Even with Monacy in this form? He's been much, much better at Pro League.
No, he has, but ask me at the end of October.
No,
I
answer
can't
now.
do that, can I? Yeah.
I need to see more. I need more sample
You're
size.
such a fence sitter. Put your neck on the line.
No love for G2.
Okay, in that case, I will put Falcons
No, because
behind
they've got to integrate Grix, so it's going to take a little while.
No, Furia and G2. When I said I think a dark horse might win the major, it would be one of those two teams, 100%.
Yeah.
But I do think Spirit are probably the best team in the world right now. Furia and G2, more so Furia, aren't going to be that far behind them. But they probably do lack that like little extra bit of firepower that could ever see them be the best team in the world. I don't think it'll. I'm not going to say we'll ever see it again, but I think it will be a while before we see a team that can be as consistent as Na'Vi was last year without having that real superstar, which Molodoi is becoming for the sake of saying it.
What a goat.
Oh, he's
But even like one superstar is like not enough anymore.
yeah, I kind of agree. Like if you look at
Tell you what, I
Spirit,
was-
like they've got 3 of them.
I was so upset when Amcal had made that change where they got rid of Height and they brought in Molodoi, and I was like, I don't know who this guy is. He just started owning people. I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
he's-
that's why. That's just unbelievable talent.
He is
One thing I've learned from like Russian-speaking teams is you just gotta trust them.
Molodoi.
They will.
Yeah,
There's just always a new guy who's better.
I remember I was casting him obviously quite a lot in tier 2, and there was this game on Ancient where he didn't even AWP once. He was just using the AK. He was just full Wing at people and just getting like 4Ks. And I was like, this kid is actually just absolutely unbelievable.
No, he's unreal. That Furia team is just the most fun team I've watched in such a long
Respect,
time.
yeah.
Like I fucking love Furia games right now. Like your Kindar is good, probably the most fun player ever. Molodoy's
but
ridiculous.
Also
okay,
a Fury
art.
player. But also a Fury player.
Molodoy's
for what it's
ridiculously
worth.
fun to watch. This Fallen arc is great, and like Keserato and Yuri, like probably like I don't overly get excited by them, but they're also the least inoffensive players to ever exist. Like
I want them to win the major.
I
I
want
really
them
want
to.
Fury
Yeah,
to win the
I
major.
really want them to.
Yeah, Fallen on his greatest ever arc. Put him
Yeah.
on. He's in the conversation if he takes this team to a major.
Okay.
I actually don't care.
I agree. But so end the show then, right? Because we've
Yep.
given predictions on previous shows.
And we're also an hour and a half in.
Yeah.
so-
But Brandon, you just said you want Furia to win the major, but who do
Yeah.
you think is going to win the major?
Furia!
Actual serious prediction?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah,
I'll do
why
it.
not?
I'll back
Cool.
it.
Cool. We'll return to that after the major is
Fantastic.
won and see who's got it right. Because I have a feeling
Red Canids.
someone is going to. Because I don't think, and I think we've all said pretty similar teams actually.
I can't even remember who I said.
Well, I've
Maybe
said
some sort of-
Furia before, and I've also said Spirit, so I feel pretty safe with those 2 guesses.
Yeah, I mean, you've covered most bases there, haven't you?
Yeah.
All I know is it won't be Mouse.
No, it's certainly
Anyway, anyway, yeah, we've been on your screens for far too long. I've been Elliott AZESC. Below me on my screen, I don't know where he is on the actual screen, is Sam, the other podcast host, and Anwonmo CS2.
Yeah, that's the one. Or the
And
2.
joining us, joining us this week was Brandon BDog Dog. It's just
you.
I don't know. It's a really
My
good bit.
favourite golden retriever.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us, talking through what was obviously the sad parts of Impact and the slightly more fun parts of ESL Pro League. Where can people find you?
They can find me on Twitter at BDogCS, I think.
Or
And
in
on a CCT broadcast. I'll be there.
Yeah.
Or in a park,
Really?
chasing your own tail.
Exactly.
And on that note, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you all next week for another stellar episode of Inferno.